Curious on your perspective, Courtney, what did that process look like, maybe in this project or just in general?
So the lab is always going to have more controlled settings than your production line. So we have control over the wavelength of light and the volume of light is the big one. Trade shows to me are always the hilarious thing because whatever you came up with, the trade show lighting is going to be obnoxious. It's so much brighter than anything you accounted for. Customers have done silly things, install their line right under a skylight. So they tell me it works at 10 a.m., but not 2 p.m. because the sun was over there versus over there. So that's lighting. Lighting, I think, is the number one challenge of lab versus real life. The teaching defects is interesting because all of the work I know how to do up until this point in traditional vision systems is going away because I think machine learning, at least with vision systems, vision systems are ripe for machine learning because you just basically have a matrix of data, a whole bunch of pixels that you've either got 3 pixels because you're dealing with color, or you got 1 pixel, it's black and white, and you just how black or how white is it. And then the system can learn little areas of interest all by itself, which to me is mind blowing for things like textile and let's just say fruits. One of the projects I remember no bidding on was strawberries because it's easy enough to tell an operator, take out the yucky ones. Okay, so how do I tell the computer if yucky, remove? What makes it yucky? How green is it? How big is it? Like, how do you quantify or qualify what makes something? Just as a human, sometimes you appreciate what we're able to do without thinking about it very much. I don't have to think about what's a yucky strawberry. I use my 5 senses and I reach for the strawberry. And if I don't want it, I don't eat it because my brain just knows how to evaluate that. We're trying to teach cameras to do the same thing because I can't, with traditional machine vision, tell you what makes a good strawberry. It's too highly variable. That's something Greg always called a God product. It comes out the way God made it. You don't have a spec sheet for it. It's just going to be highly variable. And deep learning systems can just group together what makes a good, and I'm not necessarily going to know or agree with what the system identifies as the qualities that make it good. But if you give it enough examples of good and enough examples of bad, I don't need to actually do the programming of highlighting a region of interest and specifying a color threshold and all kinds of stuff that traditional vision calls for. It's like a lot of that stuff now, we're just going to let the system figure out what made it good or what made it bad. But you have to be good at training it. That's the other thing, is your quality of data is going to have a huge effect on the quality of the model that you train. If you actually give it 100 pictures of actually good and 100 pictures of actually bad, it'll learn. I've seen a few people have to go back through and be like, oh, I accidentally flagged this thing as good or bad. And then the even scarier thing was the system was like, are you sure? Because it looks like a bad to me. And you're like, oh, dang it. You're right, computer. It was a bad one. I concede.